Have you ever wondered why, just when you needed others most, they seemed to disappear? Why the world grew quieter, colder, just as your heart reached out for connection? Is it truly abandonment? Or could it be something more sacred unfolding beneath the surface? Welcome to Stillness Unfolded, where we explore the hidden wisdom behind life's most silent seasons. In today's video, we will journey deep into the heart of loneliness, not as a curse, but as a powerful gateway to your highest transformation. We will uncover why isolation often arrives not to break you, but to awaken you, and how it becomes the sacred preparation for a life of deeper truth, freedom, and inner peace. Have you ever felt that your solitude might be trying to tell you something? Stay with us, because this reflection could change the way you see your loneliness forever. Before we dive in, if you find value in these quiet but powerful teachings, please consider giving this video a like, subscribing to Stillness Unfolded, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps this channel continue creating thoughtful, healing content, and your voice might just inspire someone else along the way. This is a video rich with insights and soulful truths. Make sure to watch it all the way through, so you don't miss the deeper layers of the message waiting for you. Let's begin. There's a kind of ache that doesn't shout. It doesn't make a scene. It lingers, quiet and persistent, like a mist on the soul. That ache is loneliness, but it's not always born from being unloved. Sometimes it's the side effect of being chosen for something sacred, something your current life could no longer hold. Loneliness is not the absence of affection. It is the awakening of a deeper hunger, the soul's hunger for meaning, for truth, for its own undivided presence. And in Buddhist and Zen thought, it is understood that the outer world does not move at random. The dissolving of friendships, the ending of chapters, the silence that once was filled with noise, all of it mirrors an inner shifting, a soul being called inward. When the conversations fall away and the gatherings grow still, it can feel like abandonment. But to the wise, it is seen as a door opening. A tree does not grieve when winter strips its branches bare. It knows that what looks like death is merely rest. It understands that growth happens invisibly, in the depths unseen by the hurried eye. So it is with us. When life removes the chatter, the endless meetings, the surface-level exchanges, it is not emptying us out of cruelty. It is clearing the stage for a different kind of presence to emerge. Not the approval of the crowd, but the whisper of the heart. Not the echoes of expectation, but the clarity of inner knowing. In solitude, the soul speaks. In stillness, we hear. And in the ache that lingers without sound, a new chapter quietly begins. At first, the changes are subtle. The texts come less often. The invitations slow. The shared laughter fades into distant echoes. You find yourself standing where once there was a crowd, and now, only the wind answers your voice. It feels personal. It feels like betrayal. The mind asks, what did I do wrong? But the soul knows better. In the wisdom of Zen, it is said that when the surface is disturbed, it is only because something deeper is being revealed. The truth is that not everyone was meant to walk every part of your journey. Some companions were seasonal, necessary for your growth then, but not now. Some relationships were built not on understanding, but on mutual distraction. And when your spirit begins to seek depth, superficiality naturally falls away. The ones who stayed only for comfort could not endure the stillness of your becoming. The ones who fed on your confusion found no sustenance in your clarity. And so they left, not out of cruelty, but because your evolving energy no longer matched their needs. Zen teaches that when the marketplace empties, the temple becomes visible. In the same way, when the crowd disappears, the sacredness of solitude is revealed. Their exit is not your failure. It is your entrance. An entrance into a life lived with authenticity rather than performance. A life where you no longer need to pretend to be smaller to be accepted. It may sting at first, but what you are losing is only that which could not stay loyal to your unfolding. And what you are gaining is the rarest treasure, the space to meet yourself without masks. It is one of life's strange paradoxes, how we can stand in a crowded room and still feel unseen. How we can laugh with others and yet carry a quiet ache that no echo ever soothes. The presence of many does not guarantee the presence of meaning, and the absence of voices does not mean the absence of love. In Buddhist thought, this phenomenon is often explained through the concept of Maya, the great illusion. The shimmering surface of life that distracts us from deeper truths. Surrounded by noise, we mistake motion for progress. We mistake attention for affection. We mistake conversation for connection. But these are often shadows, not substance. Have you ever noticed how the loneliest moments are not when you are alone, but when you are misunderstood? When you offer a piece of your soul, and it is met with indifference, or worse, pretense. This is why true loneliness does not begin with isolation. It begins with realizing that much of what we called connection was merely a dance of roles, a negotiation of needs, not a meeting of souls. When life strips away these entanglements, it is not being cruel. It is freeing you. It is in the vast quiet, after the crowd has dispersed, that your spirit begins to breathe again. Only in that uncluttered space can you hear the subtle music of real connection, the kind that does not clamor for attention, but simply is. True companionship does not fear silence. It grows in it. And in losing the illusion of togetherness, you make space for a deeper, quieter love, the love of what is real, both within and without. When the last echoes of conversation have faded, when familiar faces have drifted beyond reach, the heart is tempted to believe it has been punished. Have I done something wrong? It wonders. Is this loneliness a consequence? But in the teachings of Zen and the quiet wisdom of Buddhist philosophy, we find a different answer. Solitude is not a sentence. It is a sanctuary. You have not been cast out. You have been called inward. There is a season for everything. A season to plant, a season to harvest, and a sacred season to rest unseen beneath the soil. Growth does not always look like movement. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Sometimes it looks like silence. Just as the seed must first be buried before it can rise into the light, so too must the soul sometimes be hidden, protected from the noise, shielded from premature exposure. Karma is not punishing you. It is protecting you. It is weaving a cocoon around your spirit, not to suffocate, but to safeguard your transformation. The ones who cannot accompany you now are not your enemies. They are simply not equipped for the altitude your soul is preparing to reach. To ascend, you must travel lightly. You must release what cannot rise with you. This retreat into yourself is not exile. It is elevation. It is an invisible grace, wrapping itself around your becoming, whispering, "Grow here," in the hidden places, away from eyes that cannot yet understand. And when the time comes, you will not return as who you were. You will emerge as who you were always meant to be. In the heart of true solitude, there is no audience. No one applauds your moments of clarity. No one consoles your moments of doubt. There is only you and the vast, unfiltered mirror of your own being. In Zen practice, there is a tradition of silent sitting, where for days the only companion is the breath. No words, no distractions, just presence. This is not to escape the world, but to meet it more truthfully, starting with oneself. When you are left alone long enough, the masks you once wore begin to crumble. You can no longer pretend to be what the world demanded. You can no longer outrun the parts of yourself you buried beneath busyness. The fears that once whispered beneath conversations rise to the surface. The wounds once camouflaged by laughter become visible. The forgotten dreams, the denied griefs, the hidden longings, they all stand before you now, asking not for judgment, but for acknowledgement. And this, too, is sacred. The self you meet in stillness is not broken. It is simply unmasked. Beneath the roles you played, beneath the names you answered to, there exists a quieter identity, a spirit untouched by the world's noise. Loneliness is not abandonment by others. It is the slow, tender reunion with the parts of yourself you lost along the way. In this sanctuary of silence, you remember, you are not the echoes of approval. You are not the sum of your distractions. You are the silent witness, the still lake beneath the storm, waiting patiently for your own gaze to return. Emptiness, a word that often carries fear, a space that many rush to fill. But in Buddhist wisdom, emptiness is not the absence of life. It is the spaciousness where life can finally unfold without distortion. Sunyata, the great teaching of the void, reminds us, it is not what is added to us that completes us. It is what is stripped away. In the hollowness of isolation, you may first feel a gnawing ache, a desperation to replace what was lost. But if you stay, if you breathe into the ache rather than fleeing from it, you begin to see. You see how much of your life was built on noise, on the clinging, the striving, the performing. You realize that many of your desires were never truly yours. They were echoes of the world's craving, not your own soul's yearning. And in that spaciousness, a miracle happens. You are not consumed by the emptiness. You are clarified by it. Like a muddy river clearing after a storm, your spirit begins to settle. The frantic search for meaning outside yourself dissolves, revealing that the meaning you sought was quietly blooming within all along. Emptiness is not a curse. It is a blessing. It is the sacred ground from which true being can emerge, untangled from expectation, undisturbed by the need to prove or perform. In the silent fields of nothingness, you find everything: presence, peace, the unshakable truth of who you are when there is nothing left to lose. There comes a point in the journey where you realize, not everyone is meant to understand you, and you no longer need them to. At first, the misunderstanding cuts deep. Friends you trusted interpret your silence as distance. Family questions your withdrawal. The world demands explanations for your stillness. But Zen wisdom teaches, the path inward cannot be justified to those who have never walked it. You are not here to explain your evolution to minds committed to their comfort. You are not here to translate your transformation into a language diluted enough to be palatable. A blooming lotus does not argue with the mud it grew from. It simply rises. As you grow in clarity, as you become less entangled in the stories that once defined you, you will naturally drift from those who needed your confusion to feel comfortable in their own. This is not betrayal. This is nature. This is truth unfolding. In Buddhist understanding, attachment to being understood is yet another craving, one that chains the spirit to external validation. Freedom comes not from making others see you, but from seeing yourself fully, without needing an audience. Your transformation is sacred. It does not require applause. It does not need witnesses. Let your silence speak what words cannot. Let your peace announce what explanations never could. The ones who are meant for your path will feel you even in your quietness. And the ones who are not will simply fall away, without force, without anger, just like leaves surrendering to the changing seasons. Not all solitude is abandonment. Some of it is protection, woven quietly around you by a wisdom greater than your understanding. When a soul is tender with growth, it is vulnerable, not weak, but exquisitely sensitive. New roots, once exposed too soon to harsh winds, can be torn before they anchor. New light, if dragged into the old noise too early, can be dimmed before it shines. And so, life draws a sacred circle around you. The voices fall away. The invitations cease. The familiar energies no longer reach you as they once did. It may feel like loss, but it is shelter. Zen philosophy reminds us, a fragile seedling must be shielded before it stands strong in the storm. Likewise, your spirit, awakening, raw, radiant, must be protected as it grows into its true strength. Some relationships, if allowed to linger, would have distorted your becoming. Some environments, once tolerated, would have tethered you back to old patterns. So the universe, in its quiet mercy, pulls you aside. Not to punish, not to isolate, but to prepare. You are being guarded from influences that would pull you away from your unfolding. You are being offered a sacred space where no one else's noise can drown out your own knowing. This time apart is not barren. It is a hothouse for your soul's deeper blooming. Trust the silence. Trust the distance. They are not walls to confine you. They are wings, being slowly woven for the flight to come. In the silence of isolation, something long forgotten begins to stir. At first, it is faint, a whisper beneath the layers of old noise. But with time, it grows clearer, steadier, unmistakable. It is the voice within. For so long, it was drowned beneath the expectations of others, the obligations you carried, the endless chorus of shoulds and musts. You moved through life responding to external commands, mistaking the world's volume for your own compass. But now, with the world muted, you can finally hear the quieter music beneath the clamor. It does not rush you. It does not scold you. It simply reminds you, you are already whole. This is the essence of sati, mindful awareness in Buddhist teaching. The presence that notices without judgment, that listens without interruption. As you listen deeper, you realize, your worth was never dependent on achievements. Your belonging was never contingent upon approval. Your peace was never something to be chased. It was something waiting patiently inside you. You begin to hear your own thoughts not as tyrants, but as passing clouds. You begin to witness your emotions not as definitions, but as weather moving through a vast sky. And slowly, beautifully, the need to be filled by others diminishes. You find nourishment in your own breath, in your own stillness, in your own unwavering presence. The inner voice that once was buried is now your most faithful guide, and it speaks a language no crowd could teach you, the language of truth. Loneliness does not merely empty you, it refines you. It is not a quiet garden, but a sacred fire, and everything false within you, everything brittle and borrowed, must face its flames. In Buddhist teaching, this fire is the burning away of tanha, craving, the root of suffering, the longing to be seen, the hunger to be needed, the thirst for validation, all illusions that chain the spirit to endless cycles of disappointment. In the silence of isolation, these cravings rise into view, raw and undeniable. You see them for what they are, not your truth, but your bindings. You feel the old needs tremble, protest, demand. But if you stay in the fire, if you do not flee back into distractions, you will witness a rare alchemy. One by one, the false attachments crumble. One by one, the illusions lose their hold. You stop needing others to agree with you. You stop aching for recognition. You stop bargaining for belonging. And what remains is not emptiness. It is freedom. It is the lightness of a soul no longer dragging chains. It is the purity of a heart no longer bartering for worthiness. This is the sacred burn of solitude, not to destroy you, but to cleanse you, not to diminish you, but to unveil you. Through the flames, your original self, untainted, undemanding, luminous, emerges, not because you became more, but because you finally released everything that was never truly yours. It is only after you no longer crave connection that true connection becomes possible. When the thirst for validation fades, when the ache to be completed by another dissolves, you stand whole, silent, radiant, enough. And it is from this wholeness, not from hunger, that authentic relationships are born. Buddhist thought teaches that attachment creates distortion. When we need others to fix our loneliness, we do not see them clearly. We see reflections of our own unmet needs. We cling, we demand, we mistake possession for love. But when you are no longer seeking someone to complete you, when your soul is full without external supply, something extraordinary happens. You begin to recognize others not as saviors, not as solutions, but as companions, fellow travelers walking their own sacred paths. You meet not from emptiness, but from abundance, not from fear, but from freedom. Zen wisdom reminds us, when the mind is unattached, it sees clearly. And so too with the heart, when it no longer grasps, it loves more deeply than ever before. In the paradox of spiritual solitude, you find that you are never truly alone. You carry within you a light that draws others, not with desperation, but with quiet strength. Not because you need something from them, but because you have something to share. Real connection is not about finding someone to heal your wounds. It is about walking together, each carrying your own light, each shining without fear of the other's brightness. Loneliness prepares you for love that is clean, love that is free, love that liberates rather than binds. One day, almost without realizing it, you will notice something has changed. The silence that once pressed heavy on your chest will feel like a soft embrace. The solitude that once felt like exile will feel like coming home. You will sit in stillness, not from loneliness, but from fullness. You will walk alone, and yet feel surrounded by presence, by life, by an invisible belonging that needs no proof. This is the rising of the inner light, the awakening of what Buddhist teachings call your original face, the pure awareness untouched by the world's noise. It was never gone. It was only hidden, buried beneath years of seeking, pleasing, striving. Now, as the layers peel away, as the false selves crumble, your true essence stands radiant and free. You see the morning sun, and it no longer just warms your skin, it illuminates your being. You hear the wind, and it no longer just stirs the leaves. It speaks a language you remember but had forgotten. This is not the beginning of a new performance. It is the end of needing to perform at all. Zen masters teach that enlightenment is not becoming something greater. It is returning to what you have always been, a being of light, of simplicity, of profound silence. Your isolation was not a punishment. It was a preparation. The world had to go silent. The people had to fall away. The noise had to be cleared, so that nothing would compete with your own rising light. And now, it shines, not for applause, not for approval, but simply because it is. Now you see it clearly. Loneliness was never the enemy. It was the silent teacher guiding you back to yourself. It was never the absence of love. It was the invitation to discover love where it truly begins, within. The mind once told you that loneliness was a void, a punishment, a defect to be corrected. But now, through the long journey of silence and surrender, you know the deeper truth. Loneliness is not a hole. It is a bridge between the life you constructed to survive and the life you were born to live. A bridge between false belonging and authentic being. A bridge between seeking and simply being. Zen wisdom says, when the student is ready, the teacher disappears. And sometimes the teacher is not a person at all. Sometimes the teacher is the ache you could not silence, the empty room you could not fill, the longing that refused to be soothed by anything outside yourself. Loneliness taught you to sit with your own soul without flinching. It taught you to trust the quiet wisdom rising from within. It taught you that your value is not increased by being needed, nor diminished by being unseen. And most of all, it taught you that you are not here to fit into every room, to be understood by every mind, or to be welcomed by every heart. You are here to become who you truly are, whether or not anyone applauds. Your loneliness was never random. It was a sacred preparation for the life that is now quietly, steadily unfolding. If you've walked this silent journey with us today, you now understand. Loneliness was never your enemy. It was your teacher, your shelter, and your invitation to become who you were always meant to be. You were not abandoned. You were being prepared. You were not forgotten. You were being remembered by the universe in its quiet, mysterious language. As you continue forward, may you carry this truth in your heart. You do not need to fear solitude. Within it lies the seed of your most radiant self. If this reflection spoke to something deep inside you, please support our journey by liking this video, subscribing to Stillness Unfolded, and sharing your insights in the comments below. Every thought you share is a light added to the collective path we are walking together. And remember, this is just the beginning. Stay connected, stay curious, and stay open. More journeys of stillness, wisdom, and unfolding await. Until next time, keep trusting the silence. It knows the way.